All right, guys, so we can do a 6 month after crash report. Why I haven't been posting videos, what's been going on. Mentally, I've been being weak. I very much understand way more now why lots of people crash an airplane and never get back going, especially because I would say I am a pretty wild guy. I have lived a wild life. I've done lots of, let's just say, death-defying things: skydiving, rock climbing, crazy dirt bike jumps, war. And then here, this little airplane crash just really knocked me on the ground. Just put me flat on my back, I guess, mentally. There's a few things that come into play on why it happened. I am flying now. I'm flying my cousin's airplane right now. Thankfully, he kept pushing me to fly because he knew I wanted to. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate that. My plane is an annual, getting a few upgrades. One of those things is part of where some more of this anxiety came from. On my first landing after buying this airplane, on my first landing back home, I had... this thing has a generator on it, and I'm getting it swapped to an alternator right now in annual. And this is why I want that continuous power, because I don't like the generator just in case your battery isn't working. Because what happened is, when I came into land the first time, it was getting pretty dark. Somewhere in that flight, I had accidentally bumped the switch down into the off position. Up is on, middle is off, and then down is on as well. So now I fly with the switch in the down position, so I'm less likely to turn it off. But anyways, what happened is, right when I got down into the last critical stages of flight and I idled back my airplane, my lights, my radios, everything went out, and I was already a ball of nerves, and I was already basically just driving it into the ground, like just forcing a landing, just driving it into the ground. It was not an ideal landing at all, period. And I knew it was just terrible. That spiked my anxiety up a little bit more. And then it was either the next day or the day after, I went flying again, filled up on fuel, flew from Buffalo to Sheridan, and I went to do touch and goes, and I couldn't get my plane to touch the ground. I would get right down close to the ground, and I just couldn't get myself to keep coming back on that power. I'd push it in and off we'd go, do a go around. I did that until I was so low on fuel that my needles weren't moving at all. I was on E. The last time around, I seen slight bit of movement on one fuel tank. That was it, and then that stopped before I came around, and I knew I had to put it down. My back was sweating. I was so nerved up in a way that I actually honestly never remember feeling, even going to war. So I never remember that from firefights. I never remember being balled up nerves like that. So that last time, once again, I drove it into the ground. It was not ideal once again. Don't even like admitting it, but that's where I was. Mentally, just a mess, So it was just slight choppy wind is all it was. I should have been able to land, but it would bump me this way and that way, and I just couldn't get smooth landing. I should have still been able to land. I think my skill level was there. Mentally, I was not. So I waited for the weather did come up then. It got worse. So I tied down, fueled up, waited for a hole in the weather, and I flew back to Buffalo. When I got back to Buffalo, it wasn't that terrible bad of weather either. A little tiny bit of weather. But once again, I drove it into the ground. I did not just... It was not cool. It was not good. It was not ideal. I knew it, and at that point, I parked the plane. My 90-day solo ran out. My instructor had moved to Alaska, and it was always like, with each thing that came up, I was like, oh, I'll get that figured out next week. I'll get going next week. I'll get going. Next week turned into 6 months, and here we are. So 6 months later, I'm finally getting going again. I feel like solidly getting going. My plane is getting upgrades that I want, getting it pitched into a climb prop, getting an oil filter put on it. It's odd to me that it was never on there. That's so crazy that the old planes never had them. Getting my alternator put on there, getting my ADS-B in and out. I've had close encounters with other airplanes so far in the air without being able to see them or without them being able to see me. So we'll see. I'm getting back going. Hopefully I can finish up my private pilot's licensing certificate here this month or next month, and start posting some more videos, because I definitely got some plans. We have beautiful country around here for videos. We got Devil's Tower right over here. We flew around it the other day. You have to stay 3 miles out, but you can see it really well from the air still there. It's really cool flying around it and seeing the shadows hitting it from all different directions. I want to go buzz by as close as I can legally by Mount Rushmore, check that out. So yeah, I'm back and going, but I 100% understand when people have a little fender bender and have trouble getting back going, because that's definitely been the case for me. So we'll see. I'll have to get the GoPro fired up and get going.